So our first panel, will the real leaders please stand up? Will the real panelists please come up? Limina has been a really integral part of the planning, full of ideas, always there, even when she had to join us on Zoom from some difficult locations, and had a lot of great ideas that we embraced. She is the pastor of New Connections United Methodist Church, but I'll tell you what's written there. Somebody that she knows about once long ago said, "We know where our fruits." So here's a little of that harvest, and she'll introduce the other folks.
Good morning, and thank you so much, Brad. If you ladies are okay with it, I'll introduce you right before you speak, so your who is fresh in people's minds. I'm not going to re-thank the people who have been thanked, so that we can do the things that we are here to do, and thank you for your words. When I was in junior high and high school, you know, everybody's most poised and dignified stage of life, I received the world's most consistent yearbook signature. To the weirdest girl I know. Yeah. Now, I realize that most of you in this room don't know me that well, a few maybe. But I'm going to go out on a limb and say that in a world where Bjork, the Kardashians, and P. Diddy exist, I'm like maybe mid-range weird. Two very well-meaning friends who went on to have careers, you might even know at least one of their names, sat me down one day in the cafeteria to explain with visuals, that on a spectrum from plant life to alien species, I was very, very close to alien. Thank you. They made a chart, actually, out of cafeteria items. Normal was the salt shaker. Pretty normal. And weird was the milk pouch, and that really was weird. That was alien. But the whole point of this exercise, where I was an alien milk pouch, was to help me understand how to be more normal, because my friends wanted me to succeed. So if I wasn't that weird and my peers weren't trying to be cruel, which they really were not, what was going on? It wasn't that I was weird. It was that I was not following blindly. See, in general, as a society, we say we want leaders and visionaries, but really, we want leaders and visionaries. For instance, I want to be a person who wants to go skydiving, I really do. But not enough to jump out of a moving plane. We tend to actually be one step removed from the things we truly want, that we claim we want. And human nature seems to amplify this when we're thinking as a group. So my independent thinking was weird. This isn't how we do things, and if you stand out or you stick up, you'll get smacked down. My task, the task of this panel, is to describe the flavor of leadership we need to meet the challenges of our time. Which feels like an awful lot for 45 minutes, but together we're gonna give it a go. So how should we describe the leadership models we have been trained to expect in the last, let's say, 50 years? Our typical leadership models are generational or time-based, as in climb the ladder, work your way up, pay your dues. Who didn't hear that at the dinner table? Power-based, meaning we pass down leadership roles as an inheritance or a legacy, which leads to a false meritocracy. If someone has the pedigree and the wealth, they must clearly have the skill. On a break, you can Google JFK's essay to get into Harvard if you would like an example of that. Our leadership models promote innovation to a point. Color in the lines those in power have drawn, or can be persuaded to see. Of course, those in power will only ever see what is allowed to get past their gatekeepers, who literally get paid to only show people in power what they want to see. Baby boomers, this one is for you. Our leadership models assume that we will reach some set it and forget it point, at which we've done enough and we can sit back and enjoy things. A message that you were raised on by a generation who literally saved the world, some of them twice, ended a depression, cured multiple diseases, and created a social safety net, at least for the paler folks among us. So the message you got was crisis is over, stay the course, buy a pink car, go to the drive-in. You're welcome. Our models look for quick fixes to symptoms so we can get back to normal, without tackling root causes of problems to create a better new normal. Partly, this is because we have some deeply unresolved social issues that we would prefer very much to not talk about in polite society. Thank you very much. We've quit being nice before being good. Nice says polite things and follows the script. Nice enables the snowball that will become the catalyst of the avalanche. Nice kicks the can down the road, and now here we are, friends, standing here drowning in cans. Goodness, on the other hand, names a problem because we care enough to want to solve a problem. This means that our leadership mindset is designed to stagnate, celebrating an occasional sparkly breakthrough story to keep things spicy and distract us from the overall trend. It makes for a good movie, Pursuit of Happiness, but it's a bad social plan. Okay, well, that didn't sound very good, did it? Like most things, it has to get a little bit worse before we can figure out how to make it better. Because when these underlying ideas are all in play together, it sets us up for failure. This model of leadership, this collective of models of leadership, rewards and cultivates mediocrity. Don't be weird. Exhausts innovators. How many great ideas can you have that get shot down, overthought, outright stolen, mansplained, before you simply give up and keep your thoughts to yourself? We punish movement, even while we say we want it. And this self-imposed cognitive dissonance allows us to believe we are actively seeking change makers when in truth, we are stifling and gatekeeping. It also alarmingly primes us to rewrite history. Martin Luther King Jr. is a national treasure now. But when he was alive, he was hated, hunted, and dismissed. It also means we glorify making people work really, really hard to do amazing things, and then we celebrate that they worked really, really hard. But in truth, we could stop normalizing the creation of obstacles. We are wired to be creatures of habit. Habits are a biological survival skill. But when we fail to realize that social and technological change will happen faster than we are ready for them, we stifle the even greater biological imperative to evolve. In my day job, I say that change is a means and state of grace, for those of you who are into that kind of thing. And so ultimately, our understanding of leadership fails to provide us with the leaders we need because the intractability of the many only truly values the innovative ideas of the already vetted, usually moneyed few. And with that, I conclude the bad news portion of my comments. If we know how and why we have the leadership paradigms we currently have, and if we know why they aren't working, we can begin to describe the leaders we do need. As our day goes on, we will explore how to cultivate, nurture, and support those leaders, and what obstacles or challenges we might be a part of making, and therefore able to be a part of removing. Painting a picture of a culture that is hungry for real leadership is even more important to the work we do today than it is to describe an ideal leader. Because if we have a culture that encourages them, leaders are like dandelions. They are going to grow and self-propagate no matter what else happens. So let's describe the culture we need and name the leadership traits we hope to grow. We need a culture anxious for real solutions, unwilling to settle for quick fixes. Partly this is about embracing short-term discomfort for long-term amazement. Partly it's about working on our critical thinking skills. Anybody have a class in critical thinking? About time. See, they're learning, and all we have to do is get out of the way. Why is the first question of a good leader? It's a sign of a search for causality. The leaders we need are critical thinkers who get 10 steps ahead of us, bushwhacking the road ahead. Slow and steady is great for dating, for pot roast, and for fishing. But in leadership, slow and steady is a way of making new ideas palatable for reluctant people. Great leaders have an infectious impatience that keeps us all motivated. An actively balanced portfolio of leaders to have a future-facing ratio of experience to nimble naivete feels like a pretty good idea. The older we get, the more static our brains become. It's just the way that it is, and so we'll fight change. There's one rule in improv. Say yes. No shuts down, and yes opens up. And let's face it, friends, everything we do is just improv, usually without an audience. Youth may have less experience, but it also has less cynicism. So say yes. If there's absolute disaster ahead, and you see it, well then lead and say no. But whenever possible, say yes. Ideal leaders are historians who pay attention to the news. Someone who can read the future because they understand, but do not live in the past. A leadership culture values diversity of background, perspective, economics. We need to be ahead of demographic shifts, not responding to them, if we want to embrace the leaders we need now to build the world we want to live in going forward. Leaders are diverse, not to check boxes or meet social expectations, but because diversity of perspective leads to creative thinking and to innovation. That being said, great leaders haven't had everything go their way. The best wine grapes grow in terrible soil. Leaders have overcome adversity, faced challenges, learned how to make things up on the fly. We look for people at the top of the socioeconomic ladder to be leaders, and in the process, we deny ourselves the wisdom of those who have lived with unmet needs and thought about how to meet them. The leaders we need are right in front of us, but we're oblivious to their presence and their wisdom. Perfection is a problem. A culture that will cultivate leadership will reward great attempts, regardless of the outcome. If we're all too afraid to try something because failure feels fatal, we are doomed to stand still. Leaders would rather do something now than overthink us all into an early grave. Looking for leaders isn't the same as voting for prom queen. Do you really want her to lead? We think we need to like people who are at the vanguard, but really we need to respect and to trust them. I have a doctor who's a talking cardboard cutout. He gets 0 stars for sociability. He gets 5 stars for diagnostic care. He's a great doctor. No complaints out of me. If we're looking for leaders to make us comfortable, we don't actually want them to lead, because doing new things and thinking in new ways is inevitably uncomfy. Great leaders may be prickly people, neurospicy, weird, and hard to keep up with. Go with them anyway, because it's good exercise. And good leaders are good people. They may or may not be nice people, but they should be people who are passionate about moving us all forward, solving problems, caring for one another. Otherwise, they might be brilliant, but they are not leaders. They are people who want followers. And that, my friends, is not the same thing at all. A culture that is enthusiastically seeking new leaders will stop romanticizing the past. The past was great, and it was terrible. It was a complicated situationship, and we have moved on. It isn't about making the past pretty, but about saying thank you for the lessons that we have learned. A great motto for a culture that values leadership might be, can we please get some fresh problems? These are stale. The best leaders already live in the future. So we need to load up the moving trucks and gas them. And perhaps most of all, we can get over a pay your dues mentality. The founding fathers were boys with peach fuzz and acne. The fluffy white wigs make it a little confusing. True. Rather than expecting everyone to do what we had to do, let's embrace that leadership is a personality trait, a natural gift to be cultivated. Leaders don't necessarily need to know how to do everything. Leaders should be allowed to lead. At the break, I'd like to invite you all to sign my yearbook. In the meantime, I'd like to introduce you to the two brilliant and thoughtful women that I'm sharing time with today. Thank you. Sarah, are you good with going first? We didn't draw stars for it. Friends, Sarah Urech is the Senior Strategist at the Omega Institute's Women's Leadership Center and Taking Care of Change Initiative. She's a coach, social worker, a thought leader. She designs, coordinates, and leads educational trainings and retreats and conferences for leaders seeking to create caring and just futures for everybody. She's also an important part of local playback theater, which if you don't know about, that's another thing you can Google. I guess I'm just giving you all a lot of homework this morning. And so that we can hear from Sarah, I will take a seat, and ladies and gentlemen, Sarah Urech.
Thank you. Thank you, Limina. Thank you so much. I'm so inspired by your remarks. And Deirdre, and it's just great to be here with all of you. So, as Limina said, I work at Omega Institute. Like Mohawk, it's a retreat center that has a beautiful natural surroundings. And I just want to invite you to take a moment to just look out the window and notice what you see and where we are here on the earth. That amazing rocks and the trees, and it's fall, and just tuning into the beautiful earth that we live on. And when we bring people to Omega, some of you I know have been there. We have almost 200 acres of wooded land where people can retreat, take time out from their daily lives, all of the challenges that we are facing in a very complex world, and get some nurturing, get perhaps some healing, some hope, some space. And so we offer over the course of our season, which is, we sometimes say for short, it's like a little bit like summer camp for grownups. We start at the end of May and conclude our season. We just finished a couple of weeks ago, but we have over 300 programs, conferences, workshops, residencies, retreats, and give people just, again, an opportunity to get away and to learn. We really believe in lifelong learning, just as Mohawk Consultations does, that we're all constantly learning and evolving. And we offer programs all the way ranging from meditation and yoga to racial healing and sustainability and leadership. And about 12 years ago, we founded the Women's Leadership Center. I've been on the staff ever since we launched our Women's Leadership Center. And it was really came out of a conference series that we offered called Women in Power, where we brought women from all over the globe who were leading and challenging existing systems and structures and finding ways to move through some of the biggest challenges facing humanity. And they spoke about their work and about what inspired them. And the women who came were very excited learning from them, but also said to us as we did some evaluation, but what about us? How do we do that? How do we learn to lead in this way? And we talked about even doing power differently. And as we've been hearing this morning, power, the way it plays out in the world, the dominant paradigm in our world is power over, is models of dominance that create barriers, that create access and to resources and well-being for some, and the opposite for others, and diminish the well-being of others. And so we wanted to ask these questions about how do we shift from these modes of dominance to how can we embrace power as a way that we co-create, collaborate, connect, and work together. And one of the inspirations for that can actually be studying natural ecosystems and understanding that that they work together. They, you know, the trees, we now know much more about the mycelial networks and some of the wisdom that is being studied in science, but that has been held by Indigenous people for millennia, that they are cooperative communities, you know, that trees and plants care for each other. Those who have more resources share with those who have less. They're networked, they're connected. We talk about the conditions conducive to life. So for human life, but for all life on the planet, what are some of the conditions that are conducive to living and to life and to the well-being of everyone? And those are to do with being cooperative, with being generous, with being networked, and with being diverse. So some of the qualities that we've already been speaking about, how can we support women with a vision of a world that works for everyone, for people of all genders and throughout all different sectors of society. So we've been exploring that, evolving our own curriculum and bringing women to study together and look at it through a lens of, we talk about personal, so the inner work, the inner self-care, the care for our own awareness, our reflections of who we are and how we fit in, relational, how we interact with others, both, again, defining leadership very broadly at home, at work, in the world, in the community, and the global, the systemic aspects as well, which I've already spoken in terms of the dominance models that are out there. We talked, it was very important to have an intersectional analysis to really look at, there may be some experiences that we share as women, and there are also many other identities that will make our experiences very different. And so we can really look at that and be aware of that and bring that to bear in our leadership and in our work. And I think that's enough for now, because I know we're going to be in conversation.
On, off. It's on. Is it on?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Doesn't feel. I guess it's just not as on as that one was.
Yeah.
That's it. Got it. Thank you so much, Sarah. I have several questions, but first we're gonna let Essie speak, and then we're gonna talk. I am so excited to introduce to you my friend, my colleague, my sister in the struggle, Essie Lewis, who's the executive director of the Margaret Lewis Center for Black History and Culture in New Paltz. She's got a background in law, community leadership. She's a graduate of Hampton University and Suffolk University Law School. She's served as an assistant district attorney in Brooklyn. Words have failed me. Has taught criminal justice here locally at BOCES and at SUNY Ulster. She has done so much work for our community, serving in so many roles. We would be here far too long to describe them all, but I am proud to introduce you.
Good morning, everyone. Morning. So happy to be here with you in this beautiful environment. First and foremost, I have to give honor to my maker and also to my ancestors who were the original stewards of this land and toiled here for free. And I'm so thankful to be having this conversation. Thankful for Limina for inviting me and for Senator for being here with me and all of you. Really important conversation. So I'm so happy that we can have this conversation together. So I've had the privilege, I've had many opportunities to work amongst leaders, see leaders, be a leader. And it's definitely not, there's so many different traits that are needed and necessary. And I just want to echo, somebody said, don't wait, right? You don't have to wait to have a certain position. You don't have to wait to be elected. You don't have to wait for a certain job. You can be a leader in any space that you're in. It's like my sister here said, you don't have to follow, right? Even if you see people doing the same thing, but you have a different thought, share the thought, take the step, whatever it is. So definitely say yes when you have an opportunity and really be a leader. Also, I heard Sarah say self-awareness, which I think is the real foundation, right? You have to really know yourself, understand your own biases so that you realize how you move in the world and how you attract or repel other people, right? Because it takes all of us to really make this world go round properly. And also with that self-awareness, it brings confidence in yourself and self-assuredness, and that's really important. Because a leader needs to be able to communicate. Your communication skills are better when you're aware of yourself, right? And when you feel proud of yourself. Another really important leadership trait that I have learned is to delegate, right? There's a good leader knows when to lead and then when to follow. And when you delegate a task, get out of the way, right? I think I heard our keynote say that, right? Actually let the person do it. And in that way, you're sharing your vision, but letting other people share their part of your vision. They might be able to make your vision better, make it go better. So definitely delegate. And in that delegation, you motivate people, you inspire people, you give them the opportunity to learn also how to be a leader, because some of it takes practice. Something else that I'm learning now is to rest. Along with that saying yes when you can, you also have to have a really strong no, because you can't do everything all of the time, and you can't be a wonderful leader to others if you're not taking care of yourself. So with that, learning about yourself, learning rest, and rest doesn't have to just mean sitting on the couch with the Netflix and show, although that is one of my favorite things to do. Rest can also be walking amongst these beautiful mountains, and we are in such a beautiful space here in Hudson Valley. There are so many different things. So rest is what works for you. What's resting for you is not what's resting for me, right? But finding that thing that fills you up is rest to me. Also humility, because sometimes when people delegate things and then they see someone doing it so well, then they're, wait, no, humility. That's something different, but definitely having humility. And adaptability and resilience, right? I've heard a lot of, sometimes you try something new or you have a great idea and people say no and not, or people say yes and you do it and it doesn't go the way you thought it would. People don't immediately connect to it, but not just letting it go, not letting it break you, but learning from adversity. So and being adaptable, right? Being able to say, okay, that thing didn't work, but how can we do it better? How can we change it? And then the last thing I want to say before I pass on, and it's really important that we have discussion about this, but two things. Having thick skin. and being able to be criticized, but use it constructively, right? Because, and listen, there are sometimes that people criticize you just for the sake of criticizing it, but sometimes there's some constructiveness in it. A lot of times there's constructiveness in it, and even if they don't mean it that way, you can find something constructive in it and say, okay, let me think about this, let me do this differently. This didn't attach to them the way I wanted it to, but I can figure out a way to make it do so. Also, being responsible. I've seen some leaders who are in leadership positions, but they don't want to take the fall when something goes wrong. Or they won't want to take a stance or like give a real answer because there's consequences of that. So that's why also we have to have that thick skin and have that adaptability and have that resilience. It's all of these things in one that really have to be cultivated. So that's part of the reason why I say don't wait, young people, practice it now, because it takes a lot of practice and time, and being a leader means being the lead learner, right? Not being afraid to learn from people who you are in charge of, people who you are delegating to, people that you are working with. That's part of that, that collaboration, being collaborative. Okay, so many things, but that's a good start. Yeah.
Are we doing on time? Anything else?
Yeah, you could do this 5 more minutes.
Okay.
And a couple minutes for a couple of questions.
Sounds good. Perfect. So, thank you so much. Let's see if I can read these notes. Sarah, you were talking about the ecosystems of leadership, right? And that brought to mind, the root word of economy is oikonomos, which means community of resources. And so, then as you're talking about the ancestors and being in community essentially with those who have gone before. And so I'm just wondering how we could maybe thread together for a really grounded leadership model, being in community with those who come before us and those who will come after us, and being embodied and really planting that in place, right? Like what might that look like?
I love that you asked that question. One of the teachers I've been studying with, and she teaches a women's leadership workshop for us at Omega, is Reverend Angel Kyoto Williams. She's, I think, only the 3rd Black woman to hold a Roshi title in the Zen lineage. And she also does a lot of work on racial healing. It's called Radical Dharma. And in the leadership workshop she teaches for us, she talks about centering, a centering practice she teaches that is actually an embodied way to kind of reset yourself, because what can come up for all of us, but in particular in relation to leadership in any given day, are challenges or moments where we might not know how to respond. And I love what you said about impatience. I'm kind of like a slow, steady. So my own personal rhythm, takes me time to like process different information, and I know that I have to like give myself and my body time to catch up, and then find it through my body. So this practice has been really helpful for me. It's literally about 8 steps that you do, rooting yourself, the integrity from the earth, the dignity from above, and then leaning into the support of the ancestors and looking at the future generations, and then casting your awareness back into your core of your body and thinking about what matters most to me now, but definitely thinking of it in light of, past and future, the ancestors, nature. So it's like both the inner, the internal, what matters to me personally, but also in the lining it up to the bigger picture. And I could just share one example in my own doing ancestral lineage work and studying. I discovered actually when I was many years ago when I was in college that my distant cousin was Jeanette Rankin, who was the first woman to serve on the U.S. Congress. And I hadn't even known that growing up. My family hadn't told me about it. But then I went and studied her, and I don't know if anybody has heard of her here in this room, but she's not very well known. We don't know much about her, but she actually was a pacifist, and she served 2 terms in Congress, and both before US entry into World War I and II, very distant terms. And she voted against war in both cases and was absolutely, ridiculed and received a lot of, it really, she couldn't pursue a political career, especially in World War II. But through my own examining her, it's like what you said about history, like history was great. It was great. She was elected in 1916 as the first woman to serve in the Congress before even the 19th Amendment has passed. And so she made incredible strides. It was important, and I, have cherished and celebrated that as part of my own lineage. And it was terrible because she and many of the white suffragists at the time did not stand with their sisters of color, who were working not only to overcome patriarchy and sexism, but also racism and systemic racism. And I wanted to go back and look, and I wished to find, like, for my own yearning as a white woman and a leader, that she had helped, or that she had been supportive and been really, astute about working across race and across difference, to gain the rights that every human deserves. So it was sobering to know that that was not in her awareness. And how can I grow and be changed by that? Because for me, it really matters to work really very much, as a way of supporting women and healing some of the rifts in the women's movement.
Thank you, Sarah. Do you want to take this one, or do you want a whole new question?
Well, I just want to say really fast that, I don't know how fast, but that, going back to the self-awareness, knowing about your ancestors and your history is really important, because what happened to them and what they did is in our DNA right now. And some of the things that we do as people comes from all of that past, right? It's not just past, it's still in there. We're still doing these certain practices based on what happened in the past and what's in our DNA. And so that's part of the reason why we call on the ancestors. At the Dr. Margaret Lewis Center, history and culture is one of our components. And so starting every event with the calling on the ancestors, but then doing something different and getting the elders together with the young people who are going to be in the future, so that we can partly heal the past and then have a way forward to the future. And actually, I recently had the absolute privilege of spending a week at Omega in Rhinebeck, and with Resma, who wrote the book God's Hands. And one of the things that he taught us, sorry, my grandmother's hands. Right. And one of the practices that he taught us was kin care, right? It's different from a therapy, but it is what we can do together in our community to help each other get past that history part and do better for the future, and just hold ourselves in where we are now, understanding how we got there, to do better for the future. And that really does involve us getting together, bringing the young people in. I'm so glad to see you all here, right? But young people, making sure that you listen to your elders, right? It might take a little longer to get through the whole story and to understand history, but it's so important that you do that, because you don't have an opportunity forever. And what they went through affects you now. You might not even understand and realize it, and you don't even know. We have not been telling the truth, my friends. And so at a certain point, we gotta really tell the truth, because it's affecting us now.
Thank you, Esty. My spidey sense is telling me that it's time to take questions from all of you. So I think there's at least one person with a microphone.
Yeah.
So there's still a microphone.
And so you go over here.
Yeah.
So I have a question for you. So I'm going to backtrack a little bit with this long question. You mentioned that leaders that often only chase followers are not true leaders, and you want leaders who stick out and whatnot. But in such a strict and critical world where, for example, if you want to rise politically, if you want to do elections, you're often expected to win the people over. You know what I mean? It's such a critical world now where if you stick out too much, you might not win this election. I was just wondering what your take is on that, and maybe advice for people who want to go against the protocol and against the stereotype, who still want to win elections or rise politically.
Thank you for that, actually, we could have, that could be a whole nother conference, so,
You know,
it's huge, but it's really, yeah, gaining followers is about telling people what they want to hear. People want to hear, don't do anything. You're doing it fine already. Leading is about telling people what they don't want to hear in a way that makes them want something new. Right? So you may or may not win every election, but if you are running to win elections, not change the world, then please go home. We don't have any more room for you, and we don't have any more time. Go home. Anybody else want to?
I mean, I completely agree. That's why I said you have to be a leader, whatever space it is. You don't have to win the election. Maybe you shouldn't. Maybe you should be doing it, boots on the ground and getting people that way. Because you're 100% right. There is popularity contest in some of these winnings. So.
Where else did I see a hand?
잘한대요.
You want that now?
무슨
Right here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you very much. I'm sorry about that.
So last question.
My question is that as a leader, I know that hope is very important. As someone who wants to be a leader, I know that hope is very important. But how do you keep hope as a leader when it seems like a lot of the time things are just going the worst way possible this day, and it feels like as a young person, there's really not much that you can do, and your fate is in the hands of those who came before you. When you know that hope is a radical thing, you have to keep it to be a good leader.
Thank you. Anybody?
I mean, I do get hope thinking about this as the thinking of the big picture and leaning on the strength of the ancestors who went through things that were very painful and difficult, where it felt almost impossible to perceive. So for me, that's one piece. I feel embodied practices like dancing, singing, making music with people, connecting with people. Community is a way that I, and even sharing some of the things that are difficult, like sharing grief, sharing care. The arts, there's so much hope to be, not to say that the role of art is only about hope, because it's not, it's about many things. But it can be, in my playback theater practice, just listening to people's stories and reflecting them, even when they're not hopeful. But knowing that we can communicate and we can listen to each other and we can change.
Thank you. I think you wanna.
Well, I agree with that, having a practice, whatever it is, some people have faith-based practices, plus the dancing and singing and all these arts and things, and you have to find whatever fills you up. And also having a group of people who are like-minded, who are working toward the same goal. It's the way Limina said, or my sister in the struggle, because we talk a lot about what happened, and then we help each other say, okay, so maybe that didn't go so well, but this is the success in that, and maybe changing sometimes your idea of what success is, because baby steps are really important to just planting the seed, right? Just giving people permission to have the conversation. Even if you said something, I say a lot of things in meetings that I feel like people are not listening to, right? But then I'm planting the seed, and I'm also allowing other people, opening the door for other people to say something. So you have to find the hope that way.
Thank you, Justine. I think we have one more back there, and then I know we are out of time.
Okay, so my question is, what is one, since you guys are in different professions and fields, you can't hear me. Since you guys are in different professions and fields, what is like one word to like relate to leadership in your field? What is one common word that like expresses leadership to you? And like one more question. How can you choose between leaders and followers since there's so many influencers in society? How do you know to find like the right one? Because even though you might say, well, they're related to your like goal and your mission, are they really leading you in the right way, direction?
That's a great question. For me, it's going to be prophetic. And when I say prophetic, what I mean is a historian who pays attention to the news. Find somebody who's paying attention to what was because they care about what happens next. That also should be, that's how you find your leaders, right? What's their why? And is it a worthwhile why?
Yeah, I agree. And is it something that connects with you, right? Not just because other people think that's a good why, but is that what your why is? And for me, the word right now is resilience.
For me, the word is care, because I have the opportunity to take care of leaders, and leaders are caring for the world.
Thank you.
Thanks
We'll
for
be
this
here all day.